No comments, corrections required. So a mover for the receipt of those minutes. Moved by Lynn. Do I have a seconder? I'll second. No discussion required. All those in favour, please say aye.
Show your hand.
Show my hand. Yeah, wave. Thumbs up. Next item is on page 411 of the agenda, and it's our service reports on our Aratoi and Nuuku order. So I understand we've got Susan who's going to give us some highlights of your report of the issues. Thank you, Susan. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. It's Susanna.
Susanna, sorry, my apologies.
That's fine. Would you like me to start?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. I might be distracted because I've got this little kitten here trying to eat cables and jump on the keyboard. Kia ora tātou. It's lovely to see you and thank you for the invitation. It's great to have the opportunity to present to you, especially, I suppose, after last night's quite shocking announcement. I mean, we've all been there before, and I'm sure we can get through this again. And let's hope that with the quick and the strong collective response, we can get there much sooner than later, and return to a more normal way of operating. So the quarterly report that you have received really wraps up our year. It's been a very busy and also turbulent year. And the repercussions of the initial lockdown and moving through the levels were and still are felt for us. But despite all of this, we had a really good year and we have achieved a lot. As you know, we aim to inspire and enrich our communities and enhance an understanding of the world through our collections, through our people, and the stories that we do share through our exhibitions. I've done a quick count earlier, again, and I think this year we've curated and hosted approximately 30 exhibitions and displays ranging from smaller community shows to nationally recognised major exhibitions. Most notably, I feel over the past year was Kotahitanga coming together, bringing together the local artistic community after the impact of COVID-19, after the long lockdown. And Pukana Te Karo Te Ika Moments in Māori Performance, celebrating the Māori performance across times and genres. And that's, of course, the exhibition, our current exhibition, which is supposed to close on Sunday. And we will have to make some decisions shortly as to whether we extend it, whether we can extend it in consultation with all the private and institutional lenders. And of course, the artists who are sitting in the starting blocks for the next exhibitions. For Pukana, we ran an extensive program of events that was very successful, but at times challenging to manage for our very small team. I particularly valued the educational opportunities we were able to offer and the schools taking part in the free program and the kapaaga performances. It really brought the exhibition to life, which is what we really wanted to achieve. I do believe that the challenges resulting from COVID also provided us with opportunities that otherwise may not have surfaced. And one example is the Kotahitanga exhibition that I mentioned earlier. And also last year, we created a very successful whānau activity space in the Wesley wing that had a strong focus on matariki. And this year, we essentially repeated this, but with different activities and a much stronger focus on matariki. And again, the community responded and utilised the space a lot. And we had a visitation baseline of over 5,000 participants just for the 2 weeks of the holidays, which is really fantastic. And in future, we will continue to encourage strong partnerships, collaborations to facilitate an annual matariki program that celebrates our shared arts, culture and heritage. Because of the lockdown since last year, we have also become much more online savvy, and we are now in a much stronger position to make our collections accessible online. Sustainability is a fundamental part to all our operation, and we have completed the much needed lighting upgrade earlier in the financial year with funding support from Lotteries Eastern and Central and Trust House. And as probably all of you know, we have recently completed stage 1 of the solar panel project with an installation of a solar farm on the Aratoi and Tais roof. And this will significantly lower our electricity cost and reduce our carbon footprint. And we are actually the first and only regional museum and gallery in the country to install its own electricity generation. So it's a great achievement that all our donors help to attain. So thank you very much to MDC staff, MDC Mayor and councillors for your ongoing support of our community museum. The board and I immensely value the really good relationship that we have with our council. So thank you. And I'd now like to hand over to Aratoi Chair, David Moriarty, to speak to our financial report.
Thanks, Susanna. Just very quickly, the financial results that we've presented to you show a surplus for the year of $109,000. And I know I'll sound a bit like a broken record, but I keep saying it every time I talk to you, don't believe what the accountants tell us to present, because that's not really the actual position, because we bring in a whole lot of income, grant income, into our financial result and show it as a surplus, but it has a corresponding expenditure, which is capital expenditure, and doesn't go through the profit and loss account, but just simply gets added to the balance sheet. And so what actually happened was that we had a surplus of 109,000, and we had on the other side of it capital expenditure of 109,000. And so the accounting surplus is not really a true reflection of a year. But having said that, it was a really successful year for us in a number of fronts. Our total income was 1.12 million, and of that 491,000 or 44% came from sources other than MDC and the Masterton Trust Lands Trust. So a significant generation of significant amount of self-generated income in there. Retail sales, for example, were 186,000 last year, which is up 35% on the previous year. And Susanna referred to the solar project, and that phase 1 of the solar, together with a change in electricity supply, will reduce our electricity bill by about $25,000 a year, which is 40% reduction.
Hey, Sienna.
So that's really been our year. It's been a good year. I think it's set us up nicely for the next 12 months. And just looking forward quickly, our budget for next year shows an accounting deficit of $6,800. And if we adjust that for the capital expenditure and depreciation, that actually means a very small cash surplus for the year, just a couple of $1,000s. I guess our major challenge for the next 12 months or the next short time is that we have 6 of elected trustees, and 4 of those are completing their term of office in December. The compatibility and cohesion of the board in recent years has been a key part of its success. And so the fit of any new trustees that we bring in will be vital to if the successful board dynamic is to continue. And I know that Lynn's well aware of that as chair of the Electoral College that will appoint the replacement trustees. That's really all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Look, I totally understand about not believing accountants. I don't believe them half the time myself, and I am one. So it's the problem when you've got capital income and it doesn't reflect your capital expenditure. And sure of the other David on the Zoom call totally understands that as well. So thank you for reminding us of that. Are there any questions of either David or Susanna? There are none currently. Oh, sorry, Lynn.
I just had a question. I was just looking at the KPI, the key result areas. The resident and visitor satisfaction, the baseline hasn't been established. And I was wondering, was that to be done through the surveys that council does, or what are you proposing to do to have a baseline on visitor and resident satisfaction with our Aratoi?
Yes, Corin, you go. You go.
Okay. Well, we can both talk to this probably, Susanna.
Yep.
So it's a great question, Your Worship. So we're actually, we know that one's been sitting in baseline for a while, and Susanna and I have been talking about how we actually meaningfully measure that. So we've had a couple of meetings, and we're still working on it, but we want to try and design a way of actually capturing both people's satisfaction around Aratoi, but also their satisfaction and what they're experiencing in the various exhibitions. And we're actually have brought the library and archive into the conversation as well, because we think there's an opportunity to craft something which we could use in our other in our spaces, that is both a consistent way of doing it, but actually starting to get some metrics on how people are feeling about what they experience in any given day. So we're looking at potential for touchpad devices that people can just quickly enter in what they're feeling as they've come out of an exhibition, and very much the same in that library space as well. Is there anything you want to add to that, Susanna?
Not really. That was very well said, Corin. Thank you. I guess the only thing is that I mean, we currently have, and the library uses the same system where we record the visitation baseline, but that doesn't tell us really anything about how engaged our visitors are and how much they respond on an emotional level, really, to what they see and what they experience. So we are working on this. It will, I think, for quite some time be a work in progress, and it's sort of the touchpad that Corin mentioned is more of a trial that we think that might give us an immediate response. The council, they used to have the survey that I'm not sure how useful that was for you or for us. We do, as you probably will recall, an annual survey with Museums Aotearoa, and they produce like a I can't remember how they call it, like an info sheet, I think, that gives you an overview on a very national level from all the contributing museums and galleries. And I'm now on the board of Museums Aotearoa, which is really needs to kind of rebuild itself, I suppose. But one thing I was always really interested in was looking into establishing that info sheet for each individual organization that participates in that survey, and that would be a really useful tool to have to add to that as well. So Corin and I are working through that, but we haven't got that established yet, so it's still a progress.
I guess the other thing to just note too, and we've had this in our conversation, is so when somebody's coming out of an exhibition at Aratoi, you're not always looking for them to be happy, because that might not actually be the point of the exhibition. So it's quite a nuanced thing about how we get to something which actually we might not be seeking to go, everybody loved the exhibition. We might be actually, some people are walking out of it and talking about the fact that they were moved emotionally or were upset, but that's actually a good thing, because that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you for that. I mean, I know it's not an easy measure of how you measure satisfaction, and yeah, I mean, if you leave an exhibition and it's really touched you in a way that you didn't think you'd be touched, and it might be in a negative way, it's still, are you satisfied? I mean, good luck with trying to work through that. But I wondered if there's other places that may, and presumably you would have been in touch with them, that are doing it in a way. I quite like that touchpad sort of a bit idea, but have you had any thoughts or have heard from others that are doing it in an innovative way?
That is really probably the biggest question in the museum world, to get that response from visitors, and other than actually speaking to them personally and finding out, no one's got the solution for this. And I did teach in museum studies as well, and visitor satisfaction, visitor surveys, what are good surveys, what are bad surveys, that is a topic in itself that the students works on for weeks and weeks and research for weeks. So there's no straight answer to this, but I'm quite really encouraged and excited by the discussion that Corin and I have with together and with our team, and getting them involved. And I'll be really excited to just trial this and see what the responses are, really. So sorry, I can't give you a good answer there, but that is the only answer, I guess. Unless, Corin, have you got anything else to add there?
No, nothing to add to that. I mean, you're exactly right. It's a problem which nobody's completely solved, but I think we need to keep on trying, and we do need to establish some kind of baseline to do it, but a trial will be good.
I just think that there's another factor to that, though. It's just how well they the acoustics and things work. I've been to several over the years exhibitions there where you just haven't been able to hear clearly what the people were saying. And that just, it's a bit annoying when you go 1 year and then you go a year later and it's still the same.
Yes, I certainly appreciate that. It is annoying. I agree, and we'll work on it. But there's not a lot we can do unless we get acoustic panels installed and have a better audio system, really. And that's not cheap.
Have you costed that?
We have in the past. We have. It's in the at least the 5 figures, and in the higher end of the 5 figures. Okay. So we've got the local company involved. I can't remember the name of the company.
Okay. No, and it's. I mean, I know my hearing is impaired, but I'm not the only one, and it's been something that's been mentioned to me quite a number of times.
Mm.
Okay. Just going back, Corin, in terms of that that satisfaction, I know I understand trying to get customer satisfaction measures. So what's your indicative time frame in terms of when you think you might have something that you could bring back to report against?
Great question. So we are actively working on this now, and we've actually got to the point of talking about technologies that we might do it. So, I mean, I think we can be in a position by the next audit and risk to be able to give a report back on what we'll trial. I don't think we'll be able to have trialed successfully and have some stuff coming back, but absolutely a plan about what we're going to do for the first trial.
That would be good. Just so we're no longer just seeing it in progress. We're actually starting to see, there's some measures that we can actually start to get some comfort with developing something. Look, I totally understand satisfaction, and we'll talk about. I'm sure we'll have some ongoing discussions about it. Any other comments? Thank you very much, David and Susanna, for coming in. You got no additional comments, Corin, on this part of the report?
No, just really just thank you to Susanna and David, and also just an acknowledgement of the fact that I'm really appreciating the, I suppose, the spirit at which Susanna and I are sort of going through some of the conversations we're going on, both about the KPIs, but also thinking about how we work together in terms of Aratoi and the library and the archive and some of those obvious connections, which I think we can strengthen.
Great, thank you so much, and ditto. I appreciate that as well. That's great.
David, you got no concluding comments?
Thank you. No, thank you for having us.
That's right. You're very welcome. We had you virtually. Yes, right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll catch
Have a
you
great-
later. Thank
a great
you.
day.
Hopefully, might see you in
Ka kite.
person. Yep, next time.
I know.
Ka kite.
Thank you. Now, I think we've got Dale somewhere on the screen, have we?
Yep, I believe she's
Welcome.
here.
Welcome.
I'm with you. Thank you.
Are there any?
Kia ora-
Yep.
Yeah. Kia ora koutou. Thank you once again for giving up some time for us to catch up. And given that we've had to move to a virtual forum, we can all honestly say that we're used to this being part of the way we have to run our business, isn't it? So thanks for the opportunity. I thought what I'd do is I would just highlight some of the key parts of our report for the last 6 months and how it has sort of evolved because of COVID. So I just wanted to highlight firstly the part of the report which talks about our support with Masterton District Council for the COVID community sport grant. And it was an interesting exercise, particularly it gives us this opportunity to have conversations with our physical activity and sport providers around what's actually happening in their space and what they're experiencing post-COVID. So it wasn't just about the grant, but we learned some things about how difficult it was for them to finance or run their activities under a traditional model where membership was driving all their finances, basically. Without membership, therefore, paying their mortgages and their insurances were a difficult exercise. And thankfully, because of the government funding, with the return to play funds that we spoke about in our previous report, that really helped them get over that hump. So they actually came back with quite some vigor, and most of them reported having increased numbers as well as seeing themselves in quite a good financial space. Our research post-COVID, and some of this was referred to in our Voice of the Rangatahi surveys, is that they miss that connectivity. So when we were in isolation and young people weren't going to school and all those things were happening, they missed that connectivity, that physical activity and sport brought to them. So they weren't particularly worried about the threat of, distancing, social distancing and things like that. They really wanted to be able to get back to having some normality with friends or their peers. And some of that has been seen in the increased membership in sport, particularly in that younger age group space, which has meant quite a healthy season for most of them. I guess the other learning we've taken from COVID is that they have the practices in place. So we've moved into alert level 4 as of midnight or 11:59, and already, immediately the social media platforms that organisations work off, sporting organisations work off, we're out there with some very clear messages about what it was going to look like come this morning. And they've got their systems in place and they work together quite well, particularly all the winter codes, to ensure that they are following similar practices. So, whānau and communities don't get lost in mixed messaging. So yeah, so it becomes an ongoing thing, and it's great to see that the council had put forward some funding that helps continue to support that structure with the community sport. Also, another highlight is that Sport NZ have a funding called Tū Manawa Active Aotearoa, which is administered through Regional Sports Trust. So Sport Wellington, initially now known as Nuku Order, head that up for the Wellington region, and the Wairarapa was very fortunate to get involved in that fund very early, and so we've seen 285,000 invested in projects for the Wairarapa, and one of those investments also actually went directly to the Masterton District Council and around physical activity and play. So we'll be certainly supporting the council and how that project can be managed in the next financial year. Other than that, I think all the other pieces that were reflected on in our report are a continuation of work that we've been doing for some time with Masterton District Council, just keeping you informed of trends, also key changes that are happening within the sports sector and the physical activity recreation focus that Nuku'ora now have, and additional work that we do with other stakeholders that adds value to our work in our Masterton community. That being our ACC contract for strength and balance for older adults, and our work with the Wairarapa DHB around active families and active whānau through green prescription. So yeah, I guess, you know, if there are any questions from the councillors or anything, Corin.
Yep, thank you. Corin, just before we start with questions, have you got anything to add, Corin, as the report writer?
Yep, just really to acknowledge the so some of the conversations that Dale and I've been having. So in terms of the Living Well strategy, I think that gives us a really good place for engagement with Nuku'ora, thinking about the POS, the Parks and Open Spaces strategy, and in particular the role of play in our park spaces, and that's play both in terms of children but adults, how people right through the community do their recreation and their play, whether it be organized sport, whether it be individual, and it gives us we've started this conversation, a place to begin that thing coming out of the POS about what do our parks and spaces look like, how do playgrounds play a part in that, how does adult play into play with the playgrounds that we've got, and how we actually approach that in a much more strategic way. So I think that's a really positive thing for us. And also just noting that we are just revising our partner plan, which actually expired in 2018. So it's been sort of languishing for a bit. So we're just going through and renewing that right now.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? No questions, comments from elected members? All right, well done. Thank you, Dale, for zooming in.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. All right. So if we go, thank you. Now if we go back to the recommendation.
I'm happy to move, Chair.
Thank you. Lynn's happy to move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Chris. Oh, just missed your thumb, Graham. No further discussion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thumbs or waves. Thank you.
Aye.
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 Carried. All right. Now, next item is our destination Wairarapa, and I understand we have got Anna. Welcome, Anna.
Kia ora.
I see your lovely fire going in the background there.
Yeah. It is.
It was a lovely day down in Masterton earlier.
Yeah, no, it was lovely earlier, but I'm based down in Greytown and it's fairly miserable now.
Oh, okay. So it's lovely in Masterton, but miserable in Greytown. Okay.
Yeah, currently.
Currently. So take the report as read. Have you got any comments, additional information you'd like to bring, Anna?
No, I guess this time last year, when I was probably sitting in front of you last, I can't quite recall. The year has certainly been a big one for tourism and hospitality. This time last year, we didn't know what the future held, and by all accounts, it seemed pretty pessimistic across the country. We, as a region, however, have had an exceptional year. It's been highly successful. We've had the best spend, growth in spend we've ever had, and more people from outside of the region who wouldn't normally come here. So those other than just Wellingtonians have discovered the region and have been talking about this hidden gem that they've discovered on State Highway 2. We, of course, have known for a long time that we exist and it is a hidden gem, but because of Tourism New Zealand's great work in encouraging New Zealanders to do something new and to get off the beaten track. We have had people who wouldn't normally come this way discover what we've got to offer, and they're enjoying it. They're talking about it. Our media results have been exceptional. I think probably any major publication that you pick up each week, whether it be the Herald stuff, anything on Facebook or Instagram or any of the major commentators, it's even the business media have all usually had a story about the Wairarapa in some angle, and usually most likely positive as well. So we're in a good position, much better than we thought we'd be. So it's nice to be there, but then hello, as we know, last night happened. We knew that was going to occur. We as an industry have been preparing for this for some time, and it was pleasing to see certainly the people that we've been working with across accommodation, hospitality, tourism outlets. They have put in place their plans, and at the moment are sitting tight to see what happens.
Thank you for that, Anna. Are there any questions? I've got a couple, but any questions from the elected members first?
Just a comment. Thanks, Phil.
Yep. Yep, we go Tim, and then I've got Tina as well. Yep.
Are you just aware of there's two really significant social media influencers that have just moved to Carterton. They're about to move to Carterton. Alex Vagabond and Carrie Rad. Would the Destination Wairarapa look to get in touch with these two? They're extremely charismatic, and just to boost the brand, I think they'd be incredibly good people to get in touch with to promote the Wairarapa. They already promote the Wairarapa through their YouTube channel and Instagram, but would Destination Wairarapa consider working directly with them or bringing them on board in some capacity?
Absolutely. We already work with influencers anyway. There's a couple of women that we work with, and we have introduced them to Tourism New Zealand as well, because they have a great following. What sort of interests are they following mostly? Is it outdoors? Is it age groups?
Well, they're in their late 20s. They're extremely charismatic. The guy, Alex, is in New Zealand. His dad's a New Zealander. And but he's lived in the States forever, and his partner Carrie, his wife now, is an American. But they have significant levels of followings on Instagram, and they're sort of, when they moved to New Zealand, it was like a bit of a coup for New Zealand. It was probably because of the lockdown, they're living in the States. But I just think now that they've chosen Carterton, they'd be really good people to bring on board if you're trying to attract people. They're into the outdoors, which is a big part of what we do here anyway, and they've just been extremely I think they'd be extremely positive to bring on board.
Sure. Can you repeat their names for me?
Yeah, it's the YouTube name is Carrie, Carrie, as in Carrie, and Rad is her surname. And her partner is Alex, Alex, and then Alex the Vagabond, as in the Vagabond. But you'll find them pretty much straight away. And I know they'd probably I think they'd be really, really positive for our region.
Yep. No, as I said, we already work with influencers. We find them. We do a lot of work through digital means. We are not a region that can afford to do the big fancy TV ads and that sort of thing. And influencers are a voice that we find works really well for us. So thank you for those two names. I'll follow those up.
Cheers.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, just one from me. Where do you see, or where are you pitching your effort in terms of growth for the future?
That's a great question, Tina.
Is it in events, or is it accommodation experiences? Where are we at?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and thanks to the government providing us with the Strategic Tourism Assets Protection Program funding, the first round that we had this time last year, we have been able to invest money into consulting with business, with industry, with iwi, to find out what sort of tourism industry they want. And we've also been able to engage the likes of Colmar Brunton to understand how much awareness of the wairarapa there is out there, and what sort of things would people be interested in doing when they learn about the sort of region that we have and what our assets are. One of the key things that's come out is that as a region, we want to highlight our natural assets. We don't want to be anywhere that has a Disneyland type of activity here. We want small, boutique, sustainable. It's about the mountains, the sea, the fertile lands in between. Dark skies is a big theme for everybody of things they want to explore more. Agritourism, and underpinning this is events as well. So to your question, Tina, it's dark skies, agritourism. We need more accommodation. We've been incredibly busy this year, and it's not just the weekends anymore, it's in between times as well. Whenever it comes to large scale events, we have no accommodation. We're resorting to working with the motorhome people and associations throughout the country, because essentially those people bring their homes on their backs. And we have some fabulous motorhome friendly parks here that we can accommodate them in while they explore our region. But yes, underpinning all of this, we have a very active events community that are passionate about what they do. We have a wide variety of events that fall under, whether it's wine and food, whether it's airplanes, whether it's vintage agriculture machinery, daffodils. There's absolutely something for everybody in this region, and it's a really important economic enabler for our region. So certainly an area that we're also looking at. There's a huge amount of potential here. One of the key things, however, is we need to share or tell the other side of our story. We need the opportunity to work. We want the opportunity to work with iwi to tell their stories in conjunction with the early settler stories as well. And there's so much opportunity for everybody. The future's looking bright.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'm not sure from staff. Just we've got a couple of, again, like auditory, we've got a couple of in progress key deliverables, key performance measures on page 419. I don't know whether they're, and they're just saying, representing Wairarapa in the business events marketing in partnership with suitable venues, events and other services, and also the destination management plan. They're both still in progress.
Yes.
Do you want to just comment on when we're likely to see some movement on those rather than being in progress?
So the destination management plan, that is a holistic approach to tourism in this region, and it is a requirement by the government that each region should have a destination management plan, which is why they have given us the first round of funding, and we have just been awarded a second round of funding to ensure that strategically we are working towards a sustainable future for tourism. The destination management plan is almost at draft document stage. We're going back to those people who originally were consulted in the beginning of the plan, which was back in November last year, to get their thoughts and feelings about tourism. We're talking to them, getting the feedback on what we've come to so far, and then that will be documented into a draft plan, at which time I'm hopeful that we'll be able to share that with the councillors for their feedback as well. With the other one, could you repeat the other one? The business
was represent the Wairarapa in business events market in partnership with suitable venues, activities, and other services.
Sure. So the business events market nationally hasn't really come back because of COVID. the larger centres are getting some conferences, but usually because we have a lack of venues here in the region, usually what would happen would be smaller breakout business events that would come over here pre or post a large conference. And that really hasn't come back in any, at a level that we can make the most of it. Hopefully that will at some stage, but it's not quite. That's why it's still in progress, is it's not an area that's of growth. What we have been doing is working with utilising the weddings market, which is in some respects similar. It's where if someone's coming over to the Wairarapa for a wedding, they're utilising more than just a venue. It's catering, transport. It touches more parts of the economy. And often it's repeat visitation as well. Some people love weddings, some people don't, but at the end of the day, they do contribute a fair amount to a region in terms of they're an economic enabler as well as business events.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you. So if we go back to the resolution.
I do have a question.
Sorry, I missed that. Yes, far away.
Anna, I just wanted to ask a question around the uptake. I saw on 21, I think it is, around the uptake for 2 events on the 3.5 million fund for events.
Yes.
So is there a reason why there isn't enough momentum going to apply for that kind of fund? Is that the reason?
Yeah, I think it's probably because in order to, the fund was set up by the government to replace international tourist spend, and for that reason, so the MB required that anyone who applied for this fund had to show significant visitation from outside of the region coming in here. So in order to show that, that's quite a high bar. And I think the events that have been able to, or have put an expression of interest, even our most established events are struggling to show increased visitation because we're already full. And the smaller events that have put in expressions of interest, they're more ideas as opposed to firm events that can have the funds securely committed to them with the most chance of them being successful. The fund is managed by the Wellington Major Events team for Wellington NZ, and they have a very robust system in terms of who can or is likely to succeed in an event and who isn't. And the process is taking quite some time. There's actually only been one round of funding being awarded, and I think there must have been 7 or 8 events, and we got 2 out of them because it's a whole region wide. But there's a lot of hoops to jump through in order to access the government funding, and I think that's probably what's putting people off.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you. I see you got your hand up.
Sorry, can I just a further comment on that? With the STAT funding that we've received, we've been doing a lot of capability building workshops with the events we have already here. A lot of our event organisers are self-trained or self-taught, and they've typically worked in their own silos, just getting on doing what they do. And one thing that COVID has taught us is that we need to wrap more support around events, and those people, those wonderful people who run them, to prevent them from being burnt out and a little overwhelmed, and making sure they have all the tools that they need in order to put on a successful event. And using this funding, we have hired a couple of experts in events to help people get their head around event design. And if they have an event that possibly could fall into the Regional Events Fund application criteria to actually get them up to speed and help fill in the gaps that are required to apply for this funding. So we are also actively trying to lift the capability of the industry so that they are a level to apply for this funding.
Okay, thank you. Brent, I see you got your hand up. Is that, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, g'day Anna, how are you?
Hi, good, thank you.
Hey, obviously we're in lockdown again, and looking forward to coming out of this and revitalising our economy through more tourism. But one of the issues we do have, and I'm hearing a lot from employers, is just the lack of staff. Do you guys talk to government and all that about, border relaxation for, imported staff? Because there's a lot of people out there struggling, particularly for chefs, but also front of house staff. And what does it look like for the upcoming summer? Yeah,
sure. So one of the biggest barriers to our growth. So as you know, we're having an exceptional time in tourism in this region, and the demand is. Actually, I don't know, given what's happening at the moment, but prior to yesterday, the demand is increasing all the time, and the restaurants just cannot cope. And we've got new restaurants and facilities coming on board. There's the new winery down in Martinborough. There's new ventures in Carterton, Greytown. There's certainly, I know there's some work around hospitality venues in Masterton as well. But one of the key things is we just don't have the staff, and it's holding us back. But this is an issue not just for our industry, it goes right across the board. And so we have been joining together, looking at workforce development and skills training. This is part of the WEDS work that's been ongoing, and it is a key issue. And there's the construction, agriculture, and ourselves have got together in a couple of meetings to look at ways we can work together to help solve this problem. On a national level, we have a Tourism Industry Association of New Zealand who advocates with the government on our behalf for this, but it's like everybody, it's a constant battle with looking at immigration and getting in additional people into the country as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, forecasting anything over summer, depending on how long this lockdown and subsequent things follow, it's pretty hard for you to be able to set key objectives for growth over summer if you're stymied by several other problems, whether it be housing. I mean, I heard of one recently who had to shut their doors for a couple of days a week. They just simply did not have the staff, or they couldn't get staff to travel from Masterton to Martinborough. That's
right. And when you're paid, generally, particularly hospitality and tourism as well, when you're paid a lower wage, and looking at the house prices and rental prices here, housing is a massive issue. You want to work close to where you live, or vice versa, live where you work, close to where you work. And if you're not being paid at a level that you can afford to do that, there's a massive problem, and it's bigger than just people. I think it's looking at the professionalism of the industry, how it's viewed by school leavers looking to get into the industry, but also the whole housing side of things is an issue. Transport, we have such irregular transport, not just to and from the region, but within the region as well. How do people get from A to B to their job if they don't have a vehicle themselves? So there's a bigger discussion, which is why it's great that we are working with other sectors to try and solve common problems. It is going to take a bit of time, but it's really nice and heartening to see the work beginning in that area.
Great stuff.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Right, so if we now go back to the agenda on page 418, we've got a recommendation there. Do I have a mover? I'll move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Graham. Seconded by Graham. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Show of hands. Done. Thank you. Passed. Thank you very much, Anna. Hopefully we might see you in person next time.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and talk. I just a little final note, you know, apart from what's going on at the moment, our tourism industry is looking really healthy. And I think, as I said, with this destination management plan, it's very exciting what our future can look like. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you all and working with you as a council on this going into the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anna. Right, our next item, non-financial performance, pages 423 to 445. Angela, welcome, Angela. Oh, Angela's there, yep. Have you got any comments, key issues, Angela?
No, probably better to take the questions and we'll direct them into the right SLT manager.
Okay, yep.
This is an interim report. There's still probably a bit more work to do on the year-end things, and there's always the potential that things can still move a little bit through the audit process. So, but for the most part, yeah, it should be fairly on button for what that annual report's going to end up looking like.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for the advisory that things could change as a result of audit. Any questions? No questions. Surprised. Overall,
Sorry, I've got a couple. I'm just going between screens, Phil. It's a bit hard.
That's all right. That's what I'm doing. The same thing. Yeah, it's a bit more difficult when you've got multi screens. Or
just a couple of comments, Angela. With the one on page 428 around accidents, isn't it a little unfair on the council to have a not achieved for something that potentially has absolutely nothing to do with the council? And I know it's a tragedy that there's been 2 tragic accidents, but to have that as a not achieved, why is that there as a measure? It just seems a bit tough.
Oh, I'd like to throw that one to David Hopman.
Yeah.
Well, can I just interrupt? It's actually, Tim, it's actually your measure because you set this as part of your previous LTP.
Oh, okay. I missed that one, but it just seems to be it just seems to be something that, unless it was because of something that was the deliberate fault of the council, it just seems to be a bit harsh from my perspective.
I'll let David answer it.
I will sort of agree with you, but in saying that, we have got regional objectives regarding safety, which we report on. Now, admittedly, we have. It doesn't take much of a bad run to really modify our statistics, but again, we do have obligations around safe networks, and this is one way of measuring that.
Yeah. And just on the one on the library on page 435, just with the reduced numbers of library users, when something like COVID happens, is it possible just to set a new target? Because it's half the numbers I see. It was the target of 181,000, and there's only been 94,000. So again, to have that as a not achieved seems I know there's an explanation, but just to see it in orange, it just seems to be an unreasonable not achieved for something that seems to be completely not the fault of the council in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, Tim, I'll agree with you in terms of the fact that it's stuff that's outside of our control. And when I look at baseline of 181,000. From the time that I've been at council, which of course came in right at COVID, that's always been kind of an unobtainable dream because we saw that fall immediately. In terms of shifting the baseline, I might have to divert to Angela. I'm not sure what the process is. I know we look at the measures, but it is one of those things that we probably need to at some point take a look, if we're not getting back there, to go, okay, how do we modify our expectations of ourselves based on what's going on. It's very similar to the Destination Wairarapa conversation about the things that there is still a big lag. And you see it in the park space as well in terms of some of the activities going on there too.
Yeah, and just on page 436, I think that is a real cause to celebrate the not achieved in regards to the Wi-Fi sessions, because I do agree that it's probably because of, or partially at least due to the number of skinny jump connections that have been put in place with 165 of them. So that's the not achieved, I think, that you can really celebrate, because if 165 people do now have access to the internet at home because of the skinny jump program that is promoted by the library, it's again it sort of seems a bit unfair to have that again as a not achieved when it's something that's been achieved in another sense. Maybe there should be a skinny jump target in here as well, but there's not.
Yeah, and like, yeah, again, I mean, it is one of those things. I mean, we obviously we are delighted when somebody comes in and gets a skinny jump, and we kind of we want that to happen. And there is definitely a correlation as the proliferation gets into the homes. We do see less, and we still need to have that facility in the library, because not everybody has either the means or even maybe even a stable place to have it. Yeah, we do want to keep on measuring it, but it's one of those not achieved is almost an achieved in weird ways.
And just another, God, I'm dishing out the compliments today. On page 439, the one around the swimming program, is that the program that's run for schools? Because the school I work at benefits from that hugely. So you would have 220 kids going through that swimming program, year 5 to 8, and a huge number of those would not use formal swimming lessons otherwise. So just a massive, even though you haven't met the target, probably because of COVID again, it's just such a thing to celebrate that the council is providing that opportunity to a lot of students, and it's a real social equaliser in my view. So thank you on behalf of many of the users of that program, that program's actually in place.
Cool.
And please don't take it away.
No intention of that, and thanks for that, Tim. You can keep on giving out compliments in my area of the report all day if you like. That's fine.
That's all of them. No more, Corin.
Corin, on 437, I just wanted to ask about the data loggers and what's being done to capture the data and correct it. Because I think it's really important that we know what those numbers are on people, on the usage and time of year, what's trending, what's not. You know, it could have been really rich data that could have been captured over the COVID lockdown period last year as well. So just wanted to put that up there.
Yep. So there is a plan in place for that. So we are going to replace them all. And we're going to replace them all with smart counters, which are connected to the internet, which means that we'll be able to gather that information. We have previously relied on rec services going manually to each of those devices also to collect, and that's also been part of the challenge. So we're going to sort the loggers, but also smarten up the way that we're gathering that data so we've reliably got it available.
Angela?
Thank you.
Philip, do you want to return to the why can't we change a target mid-year?
Yeah, absolutely, please. Yes, thank you.
So there are often lots of things beyond our control, and things like COVID falls into that bracket very easily. But unfortunately, if councils had the chance to change targets through the year, they'd find lots of other reasons to do it too. So the auditors keep us pretty honest, and we have to keep that target that was set for that year from the prior LTP or the prior annual plan. The good news is an annual plan still gives us an opportunity to change something that we just got seriously wrong, say, in projecting in the LTP time. So in a year's time, let's say it wasn't a COVID issue that had got in the way of this, it was something else that was going to stay here forever, then we could use the next year's annual plan to change the target going forward, and then that annual report would have a different target.
I guess it's in the commentary too, isn't it, really?
Totally. And one thing Audit has let us do a little different is sometimes they allow us a different format in the annual report. So it's not this in lights not achieved. It's more about how well we managed given circumstances changed. Yeah.
Thanks, Angela.
Yeah, and I just reinforce that. And not achieved doesn't mean it's council's fault.
Mm.
And I think that's really important to say. Look, we sit, and this comes down to just following on what Angela has said. Look, to me, these non-financials go hand in hand with the dollars. So you're going to take the dollars off the people, and you say we're going to take each, whatever your average rate is, we're going to take that off you in terms of your rates. And these are the service we are proposing to give you, and this is the level of, this is how we're going to measure it. And you're not going to, sometimes you're going to overachieve, and sometimes you're not going to achieve. And the questions I have are about on page 432 and 442, where you've got not applicable in terms of the achievement. I one is about your building consents, and is that because you didn't do the survey or the survey wasn't available? And going back to 432, I couldn't, was it again, there was no survey done, which was about the, it was a mandatory measure. No, it wasn't, sorry, I take it back, wrong page. The recreation quality of the river downstream from the Homebush wastewater treatment plant. So start with the easy one first, David. Hopman, on page 432, the bottom. It's your one. You're on mute.
The way that it's indicated in the commentary there, that target was set 3 years ago when Regional Council used to report against the water qualities in a low, medium or good, fair or unsuitable bands. They've changed the way they reported. They're reporting that information now to reflect with the NES for water. So we weren't able to use the same gradings. That measure is now, we're not going to follow on with that measure from that sense because they have changed the way they're reporting it.
Okay. And the last one, who's going to put their hand up for the building?
Hey.
Building consenting.
Sorry?
Yeah. Yeah.
The surveying for the building consents?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really curious about that. I mean,
we just can't get people to fill out the survey any longer.
Okay.
There's two things for me as what are we doing around the not meeting the expectations of customers and explaining that situation to them externally, because I'm just mindful that if we are not, we'd started to get down to the percentage that we are, we're going to have some increased rumbling. So what's the plan to address that in terms of communications out to the community? And the other one around addressing the survey, what are we doing to look at other ways we could actually do that and get that information?
So I'll take the survey part first. The regular building firms feel they've been surveyed to death on what's going right and what's not. So they won't do a repeat survey any longer. And the one-off building, apparently it just doesn't appeal. I mean, they've got their building consent by then, they just don't want to have another thing to do with us, maybe, or else who wants to do a survey? So yes, we do need to find a better way, and certainly we've already started working a lot better with the sector. And so we regularly go along to the master builders 6 monthly breakfasts, and they let us, well, they sit on, they pick the topic, sometimes we do, and then there's a good Q&A session, and then people can grab them afterwards. We've also got regular meetings with a lot of the builders, and we've started some regular meetings with some of the architects. So they have been well received from the other end. and we can actually delve and get into a bit of detail and actually stop some of the persistent problems that come through the application process and slow everything down. So that's working out well for both sides. Everyone's feeling that's giving efficiency to the system, and it's building confidence in both sides. What we're doing right at the moment about the timeframes moving outwards at the moment with the increased volume is we have updated the building consent page on the website. So it's in your face as soon as you get there. And that's how anyone gets through to the Simply portal if they haven't already made that a shortcut. We've got social media comms that is reflecting similar. We have given people the facts of how much higher volumes we're dealing with, and the fact that while most other businesses involved with building get to go, oh, we're at our peak, we can't even put you on a wait list, or you're on a wait list. For us, we have to just keep trying to churn those things through. So we're trying to get people a bit more understanding of where we're at. And at the same time, we have slimmed down quite a bit of things we like to do, but we probably can get by for a little while. So yeah, we're putting more resource where we can to keep those numbers and try and get those percentages better.
Okay. Thank you for that, Angela.
And we're hiring.
Sorry?
And we're trying to hire more.
Yeah, I was going to say you're trying to hire, yes.
Well, we got 2. They started in the last month.
Okay.
So
and when's
that was start.
When's the next cycle for the review that, because I can't remember. So our building authority consents department is regularly reviewed externally. When's the next one of those due?
Oh, we were November last year, and it's 2 yearly.
Thank you.
Lynn, you've got a question?
It was just following up on that. It's an area where I get people coming knocking on my door. It's a nationwide problem, and I mean, I think it was in the paper, was it this morning? Kaingaora have taken increased 1,000 staff. I received an email from a mayor who was canvassing other mayors across New Zealand about the number of staff that they have lost to Kaingaora and other government departments, and particularly around resource consents. Planners are being zapped up by MFE given the natural and built environment work that's now underway. So it's a nationwide pressure, but I think we've just, and we just have to keep on giving that message. And that's most certainly what I'm trying to do with people who are contacting me and saying, hey, our staff aren't sitting over there on their hands. They will but there is a lot of processing. I mean, the Wairarapa, we know you can't get builders and you can't get tradies. There's a lot of work going on. So I just think we have to try and look in a sort of any other ways that we can, with the staff that we've got, process things correctly. But I don't know if there's other tools that we can look at to try and speed things up. It's a national issue.
Yep. Okay. Yep. I think we're only just seeing the thin end of the wedge in terms of resources going to quasi-central government departments. I see the Three Waters as the next one.
I'm going to go for a walk after this, I hope.
Sorry?
I'll put the earphones back in.
All right, it's Chris talking. Okay.
Chris, you might want to mute.
Yes, I'm going to mute. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we go back to if there's no further comments on page 423. We've got the Audit and Risk Committee receives the Q4 year-end non-financial performance report for the 2020/2021 year. Should that be interim results, Angela? Bearing in mind it will be subject to audit?
Yes, please.
Okay. So it's the receives the interim results. Did I see a mover Thank you. Seconded Tina, or seconded Tim, actually, I think. All right. I think Tim got in first, Tina. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against, carried. Our next item is our health and safety report, and I understand from Harriet that we've got some challenges with internet talking to those people. Is that correct, Harriet, if you're there? Or David H?
No, yes, that's correct. So I'll record any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Harriet. Are there any questions we wish Harriet to record and pass on, and we'll get responses back? Brent, you've got a question?
Yeah, just the one question in regards to the first page of that report. Do we keep a record of those that are vaccinated, whether they've had one shot or the full dose of the Pfizer vaccine?
Okay. And that's the only question. Thank you. Tina, have you got your hand up? It seems to be there almost permanently.
With regard to that, that's a question a lot of employers haven't. We can't ask our staff around their vaccination status. It's a privacy issue, and a lot of councils have that same question, or a lot of businesses have the same issue.
Yep. Okay, Lynn, you had a question?
I was just having a quick look again at it. With the traffic lights, is there a timeline for progress on some of those? The amber ones?
If you're talking, David, we can't hear you.
We have a work program in place, but I can't actually give you an update here. Sorry, we'd have to look at the staff.
That's fine, as long as there's a work plan in place to work on those. Okay, thank you.
Tim, you got a question?
Thanks, Phil. Hey, with on page 449, I think it's 449 because I've just changed between screens. With the interactions with staff, not staff, with customers, do we have to put on many trespass orders on members of the public? And if we do they generally adhere to them? I'm not sure who that question would go to.
Do you want me to take that one, David? In my time, which is what, now coming up 18 months, I think, we've had one trespass order, and I've known of another one that was in the year before that. And yes, they do generally fall into play because we work very closely with the police in the first instance anyway, before we go that far. And we've tried lots of things before we get to the point of doing a trespass notice.
Okay, thank you. Just curious.
Thank you. Just, and probably meant for David, but probably a follow-up question. On page 450, under contract management, we're saying work has commenced to audit contract compliance and provide support as required. Can we at our next meeting have a little bit more of an update in terms of what you're actually doing in that space? Would be good. No response required now, but that to me is something that is probably top of my mind in terms of risks for local authorities, that we are probably not monitoring our contractors well enough in terms of their health and safety requirements. Tim, did you have another question, or was that hand up?
No, sorry, forgot to take my hand down.
Thank you. This is what it's electronically, otherwise you get a sore hand, don't you?
Hang on. Down, distance, whoops, I'm all over the place. There we go. Lower
Can we have that in writing? You're all over the place. Right, are there any other further questions on our health and safety report? go back to the recommendation on page 446. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Tim. Seconded, Lynn. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Brent. Right, next item is our Treasury Management Report. Thank you, Mr. David Paris. Welcome.
Afternoon, everyone. Afternoon, Chair Philip. I will take the report as read and ask for comments, but I suppose the year has been typified by low interest rates, both what we're paying and what we're receiving on our investments. Yeah, the overall report against Treasury management is flavoured by that low interest rate environment. We're within our policy limits, yeah, we have more funds at the end of the financial year than we had end of last financial year, and largely because of about $1.9 million of Three Waters stimulus funding that we received towards the end of the financial year, and we are busy spending. But that's the main reason why we have more funds in the bank than we expected to and than we had last year.
Yeah. So you're blaming the government for giving us too much money. I wouldn't advertise that.
Well, no, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it.
Right. Okay. That, and also, just can you talk about on page 455, just for the team, the unrealised gains or losses, why we had an unrealised loss? I think that's probably just explain how that arose and what the implications are.
Okay, the $9 million investment fund that we have with ANZ is invested in bond funds, and they're high grade and government bonds. They have an interest rate that is fixed return, but they're tradable on the market, and the value has decreased because interest rates are on the way up, particularly the forward interest rates, where the market looks forward and says in a year's time, in 3 years' time, we think the rates will be higher. Those bonds that we're holding are then worth less because the interest rates that they're fixed at the moment will be less and less attractive to trade. So there's a loss in value when the interest rate market is moving up, and the skill, I suppose, in why we use managed funds is that the people managing those funds for us are selling the bonds and buying new bonds to take advantage of the increasing interest rates, so that in future we stay up with the market. And you'll see their performance is still better than the market index performance. So they overall, after their fees, it was a 1.73% reduction in the value of the fund. The market reduction was 2%. So the market overall performance was down. Our performance on our particular fund was down by slightly less.
Okay. People understand that? Okay. Anything else, David? I've got any other questions? No other questions? So if we go back to the resolution on page 454, that the committee receives the Treasury Management Report as of 30th of June 2021. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Brent. We got that one this time. Thank you, Tina. Seconded it. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against, carried. Our next item, David, don't run away, is your rates receivable report on page 460.
Okay, just first of all point out that there's an error in the date range in the first paragraph under executive summary. I'm quoting the 2019-20 value of rates levied. It is the correct number, but it should say 2020-21 rates levied is 42.6 million, and that is in the report on page 461 over the page. So overall, the result is 1.3% of our rates levied is still outstanding at the end of the financial year. So that's back down from 1.5 last year. And the graph indicates where that's occurred. So it's still a good result. We're improving. The COVID blip looks like it's been reversed. Every instalment has its challenges, and we have an instalment due in 2 days' time, and our doors are closed. So we will await what our performance of rates recoveries are the end of this month or the end of this quarter. But we will be giving people leeway to pay their rates once the doors are back open. We won't be penalising people if they can't make it in. We certainly encourage people to pay electronically, pay online, set up direct debits. And the report does give some statistics around how many ratepayers are paying via a direct debit payment, and how many are receiving emailed rates notices. So the trends on those are all positive. I would like to see more rate notices emailed. And it's one of our targets for this coming year is to increase those percentages.
Okay, thank you. Got a couple of questions. Tina? Hello, Tina. No. Brent, have you got a question?
Just a compliment, David. Great to see so many. I know this has been a bit of a goal, and while the goal is to increase the amount of email notices going out, to have over 4,000, mate, is fantastic. So well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, just trying to do one. Sorry again, Phil. I'm just all over the place here, mate. David, on page 461, where you see every June things get better, apart from last June, but it's right back on track again this June. Is there any reason why in the other quarters that they always go up significantly? And does that have any real impact on the overall picture?
We certainly have a push to get people to clear up, fully pay their rates by the 30th of June. So there is once they roll over onto the 1st of July, there's a 10% penalty, and another 10% penalty applied to anything outstanding from the previous year. Yeah, each instalment is payable every quarter, and there's a 10% penalty as that goes. But the end of financial year is always a push to try and get people to fully pay by then, and whether it's chasing the mortgagees or giving people further reminders that they've got behind, and they'll be penalised again if they don't pay by the 30th of June. So that's the reason why there's often a dip down in June. We roll over into the new year, and the next quarter, people who haven't paid the first instalment generally pushes up that the bar again.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Tina, you still got your hand up. Oh, Lynn? You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm just looking to see what page. It's on page 462. Just curious, at the bottom there, it says there's 1,889 properties, but it says 6,121 ratepayers are paying their rates via direct debit. So obviously there's a lot of those will have more than one property. Is that, are we comparing apples with apples?
Yeah, when we talk ratepayers, it is rateable properties.
Okay.
So if a commercial property, a commercial entity has 7 properties, they're 7 ratepayers. If they're paying them all by direct debit.
Okay, because I can see what, yeah, the number, the direct debit number is a lot lower than what I would have actually thought. But yeah, okay, thank you.
I think, David, can we just clarify? Direct debits is where the council holds a direct debit form and we will initiate the transaction. That's not stopping people from doing, probably about the only way about other than coming in and paying for holding stuff by internet banking. So it doesn't stop people automatically in their online banking setting up a payment that will actually send out the payment on the due date. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. An automatic payment, they have to set it up themselves. They nominate the amount that comes out of their account and the date. Yep. And if their rates have gone up and they get that number wrong, they can end up having an automatic payment that's not enough, and they end up with a balance that hasn't been paid and get a penalty on it. A direct debit means we take the right amount. They tell us how often to take it. It can be weekly, fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, and they never get a penalty.
Okay.
As long as they don't bounce.
Yeah, yeah. But for example, if you've got internet banking and you get your rate demand and you say on the 14th, on whatever day it is, you can actually set it up not as an automatic payment, but you can set it up as an advance payment to go out through your online banking, but you're actually controlling it rather than automatic payment. Okay. Any other questions? I've got one, David, on that same page in the table above that we're just talking about. We're talking about our large delinquent ratepayers, which is the 3,000 to 7,000, and even the plus 7,000. They seem to be going up over the last 3 years. So in 2019, the 7,000 we had 2, and 3,000 to 7,000 we had 20. Now we've got a total of 35. So it's gone up from 22 to 35 number of properties. Is that a worry that we're seeing more delinquent properties in that high value?
I did put in the average there to try and show if there's more properties, it's not necessarily a lot more dollars involved. So the average arrears, especially in this 3,000 to 7,000, isn't increasing significantly. The average rate on a residential property is something around $3,200, including regional council rates. Commercial property rates can be $6,000 to $7,000. So to have arrears of that amount is only about a year's rates for a lot of properties. So it's not a significant arrears position for most of those that have arrears. In terms of numbers that are increasing, yeah, acknowledge that, yeah, 22 to 35 is an increase over 2 years. Yeah.
Does it worry you? Should it worry you?
We've got systems in place to follow up with those people, and we are in contact with them and talk to them about their ability to pay and make payment arrangements. So no, it's not a large enough increase to be of concern.
Okay. My last question is, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not seeing an aged outstanding rates. So, you know, what percentage of our rates are sort of 5 years, bordering on the 6-year, problematic for council in terms of being statute barred? That would probably be of use.
Right.
Is that possible?
Yes. Yep. I can add that.
If you could add that next time, that would be appreciated. Good information today. Any other further questions? So if we go back to page 460, we've got a recommendation. The Audit and Risk Committee receives the rates receivable report as of 30th of June 2021. Can I have a mover, please? I'll move. Seconded. Who was that? Chris. Thank you, Chris. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those against, carried. I know, right, now, next item is our capital expenditure report. David again, but you might need to refer to the other David for some of the answers.
Yeah, or Corin and
Corin,
so,
yeah, but David H is the big spender.
Yeah, report's got my name on it, but because I've put the numbers together, there's yes, it's the whole organisation. It's only the capital expenditure, as I've explained just there in the executive summary there. The operating accounts are not in a position where we can report them yet. We're still working on the year-end financial position. There's all sorts of other distractions going on, so we're a little bit behind, but the capital numbers are relatively final. So that's presented here. 68% of the program spent, and there's 3 very large numbers that are the result, produce that result that weren't spent. So we have a Masterton revamp at 1.4 million that wasn't progressed, and councillors are well aware of the reasons for that. We budgeted 1.8 million to roll out water meters and spent just over 500,000. So we did roll out a lot of the water meters, but we didn't need to use all of the budget that we had for it. So it's not like we didn't achieve what we were intending to do. We just didn't need to use all the budget. And the skate park was budgeted at 1.35 million. The project got underway in May, and we spent some of the money, but not all of it. So again, the spend versus the budget, there's a variance, and so it falls to the bottom line variance. But each one has a story, and it's particularly the skate park story is that we're getting on with it.
Okay.
So the numbers are there for questions. I've tried to include variance commentary where it's relevant, to explain some of the detail line item information.
Thank you, David. Any questions? I've got more questions, but we'll talk about them in the next report. No questions on the capital? Oh, must be a good report, David. Well done. All right, so we go back to the resolution on page 463. Can we have a mover, please? I'll move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Chris. Oh. All right, no further discussion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Next item is our externally funded projects, page 470. David, you're a busy boy.
Yeah, it's busy week writing reports last week. We presented this last audit and risk meeting just in order to report against the external funding that we've been receiving for these projects and where our timelines are to try and spend that money that we've been given. And so this is an update of that report from last time, and the Three Waters funding is probably the most significant of those. And as you'll see, that the number of different line items that we're applying that money to all have a slightly different status. And David Hopman is reporting that information to MB on a regular basis because they're very interested in how well we're spending it as well.
Okay. Questions? Lena, have you got a question? No. I've got one, and it's probably for David Hopman. We've got, for the Homebush aerator upgrade, we've got them on order, they've been ordered. What are the risks around delivery?
They have been, they've got a 2.5 month manufacturing and a 10-week delivery period. We have aerators at the moment. We've been patching them a little bit, so we don't need an operational need, but we do need those aerators delivered to us by the 1st of April. We've got a 3-month window to achieve that at the moment, but yeah, so I'm confident that we'll be able to deliver on that part of it.
So they're in the process of being made at the moment as part of their construction, or they've been made in somewhere in the world oceans?
Yeah, no, they've been made. They're actually UK fabricated. These they're wind powered aerators.
Okay, so the biggest risk now is actually shipping, not the construction. To get them delivered here, yes. We have we've got some deliveries booked, shipping booked, but yes, there is always a risk that they'll be late. But as I said, operationally, that's not an issue. We have got aerators that they are in their last legs, but they have got more time left. Okay. But certainly, and the funding side of it, we should be fine for that. Okay. So when do we make payment?
When do we make? Well, we have to have 30% deposit, and we'll be making payment when we receive the aerators.
When you receive them, not when they're on board the ship.
No.
Okay, verification, because there's some products you've got to pay for the minute they've actually go on the ship.
Mm.
There is a foreign exchange risk there because if the New Zealand dollar crashes, then against the UK pound, we will have to pay more.
You haven't thought about taking...
We haven't done foreign exchange on this transaction as yet. We still will look at that. Okay,
because you are allowed, well, does your Treasury policy allow you to do it?
Yes, yeah, okay, if we're purchasing in foreign currency, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know some Treasury policies absolutely restrict it, period, but I can't quite see the logic behind that.
Yeah, we're not speculating.
No. This is not speculating because that's prohibited under the Local Government Act, but this, or even borrowing foreign exchange for speculation. But if you're actually buying goods, the Local Government Act does it, but I'm aware of a couple of councils that specifically restrict any hedging, foreign dollar hedging period.
This is
Okay.
sound financial management, Chair.
Oh, absolutely. I would expect nothing less. Just clarifying for everyone. Right. So no other comments on that report. Thank you. So if we go back to page 470, we have a recommendation that your move. Thank you, Lynn. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Graham. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Our last item is our insurance update. David again.
Thank you, Chair. Another update from the previous quarter's report, where in this one confirming that all the insurance has been placed, because there's always a risk that some insurers will decide that the risk that they're looking at with councils is not worth taking and withdraw the offer of insurance and or price the premiums way too high. So that hasn't been the case this time, but overall we've got a 19% increase in the total premiums across those three main policies. There are other policies. There's motor vehicles, statutory liability, forestry, and a number of others, airport operators, but they're all in the lower thousands of dollars. These three in particular are the main cost to the council for insurance, and as you see, they've gone up significantly, 130 odd thousand. That's in the order of 0.4% of our rates. So we built in most of that in expectation that those costs were coming. And as I've said, the increases are driven by insurers being more risk averse and therefore pricing the premiums higher. Our asset values going up, so we're insuring higher values. And that's both underground assets and the escalation in the value of those underground assets, the pipes, because they're valued and insured for replacement value, and the liability claims that are hitting local government. The liability insurers are putting premiums up because they're seeing more and more claims. So the graph on the 475 tells a sorry story of increasing costs.
Any questions of David? David?
I think it was
Lynn?
as the report says through our LTP process, but it is quite painful to see it pan out. But yeah, I'm happy to move the report.
Are you? Okay. Can I just ask a question? Have you looked at not insuring some assets? And the reason I ask this question is I'm aware of one council that through the LAP is no longer proposing to insure through LAP their polyethylene pipe on the basis that subject to an earthquake, the polyethylene pipe actually has remained intact in all the Japanese earthquakes. Are you aware of that work that was done?
I'm not aware of that. David Hopman.
Come on, David.
Information might be. We haven't done that work with LAP yet, but they Aon, who are the insurance brokers, advisors to LAP, are encouraging us to do an exercise to assess maximum probable loss or improve our information about maximum probable loss against our asset values. And the performance of the different types of pipe material will be part of that analysis. But choosing not to insure them at all, that's a brave move.
It's not, no, it's just insuring just the pipe component of it. It's not the It's not the whole network itself. It's just those particular, in terms of they've gone through and said, look, if we have an event, it's highly unlikely that the pipes will actually be damaged.
Yeah, I think the Christchurch earthquake experience is most relevant to New Zealand situation, and the number of sewer pipes that went out of alignment, whatever their material was, is more relevant for us. If we've got pipes that don't flow downhill anymore,
yep.
It doesn't matter what it's made of, you'll have to dig it up and relay it.
Yep. Okay. All right, so we've got a mover, and we received a report from Lynn. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Tim. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that now, what I'll propose to do is to move into public excluded. So if we can have a mover to move into public excluded, please. I'll move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Tim. And I propose, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I propose to adjourn the meeting for 10 minutes, and we'll reconvene at 4 o'clock.
Cool. See ya.
So we'll see you all on the other Zoom link at 4 o'clock. Thank you for your spirited bidding.